right, good afternoon. Today is Tuesday, March 3rd, 2020. We're here for a town board meeting. Please stand and rise for the pledge. Jody, can you take the lead?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
I am having computer problems.
Frank, can you
Yes.
introduce
She will bring
a
that in.
member of
Right.
the faith community?
Sure, so with keeping within the tradition of town hall here, having a faith-based invocation, I'd like to introduce today Pastor David Cook from the Calvary Baptist Church. Thank you, Pastor Cook.
Let's pray. Father in heaven, as we come before you right now, as we begin this meeting, we just thank you so much that we live in a country that we can be free to have a say in our government, as we are part of this town, that we can come and have our voices heard. And Lord, we just pray that all of these decisions that are made today, the things that are addressed, that there would be decisions that are made that are honoring to you. Pray, Lord, that there would be a spirit of civility, Lord, that there would be a spirit of loving one another. And Lord, we just pray that that you would just give us peace that surpasses all understanding during this meeting today. Lord, we pray that it would all be to your honor and glory, and I pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you, Pastor.
Thank you, Pastor.
Thanks.
Hi.
Okay. Hello. Diane, do we have any announcements?
I have correspondence and reports,
Okay.
but I don't know if anybody on the board has an announcement.
Anyone?
I do.
Oh,
I have one. I work with the anti-litter committee, and I wanted to announce that we are going to be having a litter pickup. It's on Sunday, April 26th at 9 a.m. Coincides with Earth Day. And this is a litter pickup that's done with Riverhead and Brookhaven working together, because Wading River takes in is both towns. So it's Sunday, April 26th, 9 a.m., and anyone interested in helping should meet at the East Wind Shops in Wading River.
What's the date on that?
April 26th, 9 a.m. I went last year, I think there were probably 400 people involved.
Wow.
We're gonna
It's-
have all that information on the town website for people.
All right, great, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, anyone else? All right, moving on.
Want me to go into the reports and the correspondence?
Yes,
then?
reports
Okay.
and correspondence,
Sure.
please.
Under correspondence, there was a letter from Sal Mastropolo. This is a shared letter to Dr. Henriquez at the Riverhead Central School District. Under reports, the building department submitted their February monthly report, $134,034.75. Town clerk February monthly report, $8,375.76. Tax receiver total tax collection to date as of February 26th, $88,011,192.76. And that is it for me.
Okay, moving forward, can we have a first and second to approve the minutes of February 19, 2020?
I
So
move.
moved.
Second?
Okay. Ken, Bayrock.
Yes.
Kent.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Giglio.
Yes.
Aguirre.
Yes.
The minutes are approved.
Okay.
I have something I want to bring up, if it's okay right now. It's just in response to some discussion that we had at the last meeting about EPCAL.
Mhm.
It looks long, but that's because the font's giant.
Bye.
I like to put my thoughts down. As the town board and the community are aware, the deadline for filing the subdivision map with the county clerk is several weeks away. And I have some questions about the status of our application before the DEC and the Suffolk County Department of Health. I would like outside counsel to brief us on what issues are outstanding with the DEC and what options are available to the town if we are unable to meet our contractual obligations. I recognize, of course, that his opinion and advice to the board is a confidential matter, and as the DEC has released documents, to the public, the information about that application is actually not considered privileged. Equally important is the issue of additional details about the intended development of the property as envisioned by CAT, especially as it relates to aviation. To that end, I'm asking that the supervisor request an update from Kat at a work session. Finally, no less important, recent discussions about EPCAL raise certain concerns that need to be publicly addressed, especially in light of the contaminants found in the groundwater in areas proximate to aviation uses on Long Island. We heard at the last board meeting about potential for de-icing operations. 1,4-dioxane is found in de-icing fluids and is a threat to human health, groundwater, and wildlife habitat. Where is the material going to be stored on the site? Phosphus and phosphas have been linked to fire suppression operations. Do we know what protocols are in place for firefighting operations at the site? In light of the disturbing recent Newsday articles, we must be fully transparent and convinced that the necessary safeguards are in place. And for me, there has been sort of this goes back 3 boards, actually. I know that this supervisor is just walking into all of this. This goes back quite a while, that there's just been a shroud of secrecy around this whole deal from the beginning. And certainly I'd like to, as a board member, I'd like to have more information, and I feel quite certain that the community would like to have more information as well. Thank you.
Okay. I can assure you, on my end, there's no secrecy or lack of transparency.
I mean, I'm sorry, I mean on the part of the applicant.
Okay.
Not the
Right.
town.
And at the moment, I don't find a need to bring the applicant in at the moment until we get all our facts together and we have some good, solid responses and questions. And I would welcome that when they do come in, the entire council becomes part of that, and everyone's questions will be addressed. As everyone knows, and it's been published in the press, we do have, there was an application in, it came back as incomplete. It's gonna take about 2 months for us to do the research and get the contractors in. And at that point, I'm suspecting within the next few weeks, I'll be briefed. I was at the meeting when the requests were made for the insufficient documentation, and I will be reviewing it, and it will be open to the entire council, and eventually, if need be, we'll give it out to the press. But yes, I agree, there should be open communication, and we're gonna continue that, and we're gonna move forward as quickly as we can, but as cautiously as we can, to protect the interests of the taxpayers, the citizens, and make sure that the individuals who, you know, that if it does come to fruition, the contract, that we again, and I'll repeat, protect those 1,050 acres.
Well, I mean, thank you for that, by the way. And I appreciate, that we will be updated, but I think that in light of, recent articles about, the Grumman property up west, and, the people just aren't getting an update, it would be nice if, I understand some information might be privileged, but there must be some information that we could give out to the community, so just a
Okay.
thought.
Were you at the RAB meeting?
Yes, and I was there, and thank you.
Was Catherine there?
No.
Oh, okay.
So the RAB meeting is a meeting by the Navy. They have been watching the Matterville area, and they have been doing testing. They met, I think at the end of January. It was a 4-hour meeting. They had a PowerPoint. They explained where things are. I think Civiletti was there also. I think Tim was there. So the press was there. They did report on it, and they're gonna do testing, and they're gonna retest some areas in April. And I understand as of a couple of weeks ago, the Suffolk County Water Authority is gonna assist, and the Health Department in testing some further samples. And there's been a lot of documentation, and that information has been pretty open. And I would suggest that anyone, members of the public or members of the council who are interested in this type of contamination, go to the meeting, and they'll provide a wealth of information to you, and it'll keep you current as to where they've been, where they're going. Do we necessarily agree with everything? Not necessarily, but they do put up quite a presentation, and it's a lot to absorb, and there's a lot of concerns and a lot of issues, and you have to decipher that, and they do have a telephone number that if anyone wants to get a copy of their last PowerPoint, they will provide it to you. So you have if you aren't there, you can obviously get have an understanding of what they covered. So moving forward,
And if I can just add, I wasn't able to attend because I was at the fire chiefs for all the fire chiefs of Riverhead Town that same evening. But I was able to get all the information from the Community Development Agency Director with all the maps and the flow of groundwater and everything else. So I know that the Community Development Agency is always at those meetings and the information was easily accessible. But I'm sure that we could scan it in, and I know that several of the residents from the community were there also. And the PFAS and the PFOS there, it's a problem. It's even a bigger problem than we think with the Pine Barrens fires, that all of the aerial spray-on fireproofing was used to put out those fires. So it's really, being a single source aquifer, it's a problem that they used all of those spray-on foams to put out the fires over the Pine Barrens.
okay, thank you.
Just to reiterate a little bit about Councilwoman Kent had mentioned, that I too want an update from the attorneys on the EPCAL situation. It's been a very long time since we have met with them and have been updated, and unfortunately, under the last supervisor, we weren't included, and some things happened, and such as that letter on, I believe it was September 17th, saying it was insufficient with the DEC. We were never made aware of that. So I want to have regular updates with our attorneys regarding this, so we as a board collectively know what's going on.
Okay,
Okay?
thank you. Moving forward, we do not have any public hearings scheduled. Okay, moving forward from that, comments on any of the resolutions before us today, please come forward. Okay, hearing no comments, Diane, can you please call the resolution?
Sure. Resolution 154.
Approve special event application for Hallettville Museum Farm Horseradish Festival, May 2nd, 2020, from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. with a rain date of May 3rd, 2020. So moved.
Seconded?
Vote please.
Bayrat.
Yes.
Kent.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Giglio.
Yes.
Aguirre.
Yes to horseradish.
Yeah, right.
Aguirre?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Thank you. Resolution adopted. Resolution 155.
Approves a special event application of Halleckville Farm Museum Long Island Fleece and Fiber Fair, Saturday, May 16th and Sunday, May 17th, 2020. So moved.
Seconded?
Vote please.
Bayrat.
Yes, I just
Kent.
want to congratulate Herb Strobel, does a great job over at the Hallettville Museum, and I'm sure that they're going to be successful.
Kent.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Giglio.
Yes.
Aguirre.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 156.
Approve special event application of Home Depot for annual plant sale, May 13th through July 12th, 2020. So moved.
Second.
Vote please.
Bayrat.
Yes.
Kent.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Giglio.
Yes.
Aguirre.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 157.
Approves Chapter 255, Resolution of Long Island Moose Classic Car Club Car Show. So moved.
Vote please.
Second.
Second.
Got it all in there. Bayrat.
Yes.
Kent.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Giglio.
Yes.
Aguirre.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 158.
Accepts grant and adjusts budget for Justice Court. So moved.
Seconded?
Vote please.
Bayrat.
Yes.
Kent.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Giglio.
Yes.
Aguirre.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 159.
Accepts the retirement of a police officer. So moved.
Vote please. Oh, second. Somebody go second.
Ken.
A second.
Okay, now.
Sorry.
Okay.
Tim.
Okay, we got it.
We got
Bayrat.
Yes, congratulations to Charlie on a great career.
Kent.
Best of luck.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yeah, Charlie, I worked with Charlie for many years, great guy, even better police officer. A lot of fun with him, and he did a great job for the town for all those years. And with wishing nothing but the best to him and his family in his retirement.
Giglio.
Ditto, and yes. Good luck.
Aguirre.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 160. Take, say.
Appoints a call-in clerk for the Recreation Department, so moved.
Second.
Vote please.
Bayrock.
Yes.
Kent.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Giglio.
Yes.
Aguirre.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 161.
Appoints a provisional code compliance officer. So moved.
Second.
Vote please.
Bayrock.
Yes.
Kent.
I'd like to make a statement on this. I've been serving on the Personnel Committee for 3 years. Serving on this committee allows me the opportunity to select new employees and help steer the direction of the town. As committee members, we study resumes, interview applicants, and work together as a team to select the best person for the job. It's imperative that all applicants be given a fair shot. To date, I have never complained about the workings or decisions of this committee that I serve on. But today, I look at this resolution and it is false. The resolution reads, whereas the position was duly posted, job posting number 1, interviews were conducted and a recommendation of suitable candidate was made to the town board. Actually, this is not the recommendation of the Personnel Committee. The committee followed the proper interview procedure, had discussions, and recommended a different applicant. The department head made the call to bring a different name to the board due to pressure from others. Apparently, this was a plan to hire a particular applicant prior to the entire process. This may be acceptable in private business or in a family business, but it is not acceptable in a government entity. We represent all the people of Riverhead, not a select group of family and friends. When I take issue with something, I always make every effort to speak directly to those involved, and I did so in this case. In conversations, it was suggested to me that it was better to hire someone who was more amicable and less assertive. In other words, more compliant. The applicants are all women. Would it be suggested that a male candidate be hired because they were more compliant? I think not. There are 3 women on this board, and we were not elected because we were more likely to be amicable and compliant. We were elected to be strong leaders, willing to make hard decisions that are in the best interest of all the people in town. Would we want our daughters to be turned away from a job because they were too strong? I'm voting no on this resolution because a fair process was not followed, and this should not be how we operate as a town. While it is difficult for me to bring up matters of personnel, I will not sit idly by in such matters. This sets a terrible precedent. I vote no.
Hubbard.
I say hogwash to what Councilwoman Kent just said. I also sit on the Personnel Committee. We interviewed 3 subjects for the job. All 3 were female, so the male, female, I'm not catching what you're saying. The committee came to agreement after the interview on one of the 3. One of the department workers who's gonna sit day in and day out with this person we were gonna hire was not able to be at the interview. He was out sick. He made a recommendation after we met as a personnel committee to recommend subject A, and he made a recommendation for subject B for various reasons, including prior background and training that was much more suited for the position than any of the other candidates. With that, we spoke about it as a group, and the majority of the people agreed to go with the person that's being hired today, hence the resolution. So you can read into it what you want. The facts are what I just stated, and I stand by that. I vote yes.
Giglio.
And we are hiring a woman, so I don't understand it either, the statement, but in the executive session, it was presented that this would be the best candidate, and I'll vote yes.
Aguirre.
And I'm gonna support the head of that department. I wasn't part of the selection process,
Me
but
either.
I have to trust the majority of my council, and I have to trust my department head, and I'm gonna vote yes.
Resolution adopted.
Well, just to go back, just to respond, and Mr. Hubbard and I have worked well on this committee. I'm not taking issue with something that you did. However, we didn't reconvene as a committee. The committee made a recommendation. I mean, I was told ahead of time that somebody wanted a particular person. I don't have a problem with that. When people speak on someone's behalf, I don't have a problem with that as part of the process, but that can't be the final decision. So that was said to me prior to us going in and interviewing, and I didn't have a problem with that. But then we made a decision, and we never met again. The committee did not meet again. And yet, another person got appointed. The committee should have met again. If the decision was gonna be changed, the committee should have met again and discussed it as a committee, because that's what we're there to do. And it's a process to be followed, and it needs to be fair. And to your point, Ms. Giglio, all the applicants, it was only females that we were seeing.
Okay, so we move on from that resolution and.
Resolution
go on.
162.
62.
Ratifies the appointment of a provisional wastewater treatment plant operator, 3A. So moved.
Seconded.
Vote please.
Bayrock.
Yes.
Kent.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Giglio.
Yes.
Aguirre.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 163. I think I have them out of order.
It should be 164 now.
There
Yeah,
is
well, it is 163 though.
Oh, they
They're-
are out of
They are out of
order.
order.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Okay,
Jump down to the
That
next
will
one
be
and then back
fixed.
up.
yeah,
I can fix that.
that's an easy fix.
That's an easy fix.
All right, so I'm reading 164 now?
No, you're reading 163.
I have 163, that's what you just read.
Is the next one, ratifies the appointment
I
of a
can
town
read, I'm
budget
actually down to read it. You want me
Yeah.
to read it?
I,
Ratifies the appointment of a town budget officer, so moved.
Second.
Vote please.
Bayrock.
Yes.
Kent.
Yes.
Hubbard.
yes, that's number 164. What I have, that's what, it says this is number
Oh,
164.
What do you all have?
What do you have? You have 163, okay.
Do you all have 163?
Mine are backwards as well. 64 is ahead of 63.
Right. But what is 163 ratifies the appointment of town budget officer?
Yes.
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 For me, it's
No,
You
no.
don't have that. You're the only one who doesn't
Mhm.
have that. Oh, boy.
Yep.
Okay, well, I guess we'll just stick to the majority.
Stuff
then.
happens.
Okay.
And then
All right,
These two
so-
shall
went to
pass.
the-
All right.
Yes.
So I'm up
Signed
to,
in and put the agenda back.
Okay, you know what it is? The pages of Ms. Label.
okay,
Okay.
all right.
You have to-
We're up to, yeah, we'll
Yeah,
fix
okay.
that.
That
So
can-
I'm up to Giglio?
164,
That's it.
Well, no, we're still voting on 163.
yes.
Okay. Aguirre?
Yes,
Resolution adopted. Okay, now we'll move to 164.
good.
And that is,
Setting terms and
Setting
conditions.
terms and conditions of employment for Town Budget Officer Lisa Dower Richards, so moved.
Seconded?
Vote please.
Bayrock.
Yes.
Kent.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Giglio.
Yes.
Aguirre.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 165.
Ratifies the appointment of a secretary to the town supervisor's office. So moved.
Second. Nobody want to
Second.
Okay.
Vote please.
Bayrock.
Yes.
Kent.
Welcome aboard, Donna. Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Giglio.
Absolutely yes.
Aguirre.
Yes, welcome aboard.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 166.
That's me. Setting terms and conditions of employment for Donna Sadowski, secretary to the town supervisor's office. So moved.
Seconded.
Vote please.
Bayrock.
Yes.
Kent.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Giglio.
Yes.
Aguirre.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 167.
You're gonna have to show them out of whack here. Amends Resolution 2019-811 and authorizes the supervisor to sign an employment agreement with Ken Testa, so moved.
Seconded?
Vote please.
Bayrock.
Yes.
Kent.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Giglio.
Yes.
Aguirre.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 168.
Approves employee's request concerning accrued time carryover, so moved.
Seconded.
Vote please.
Bayrock.
Yes.
Kent.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Giglio.
Yes.
Aguirre.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 169.
Authorizes the supervisor to execute memorandum of understanding with Civil Service Employees Association, Local 1000, AFSCME, AFL-CIO, Riverhead Unit of the Suffolk, Local Number 85. So moved.
Second.
Vote please.
Bayrock.
Yes.
Kent.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Giglio.
Yes.
Aguirre.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 170.
Ratifies the appointment of an interpreter for the Police Department and Justice Court. So moved.
Seconded.
Vote please.
Bayrock.
Yes.
Kent.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Giglio.
Yes.
Aguirre.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 171.
Ratifies the overnight stay of one police department employee. So moved.
Second.
Vote please.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Bayrock.
Yes.
Kent.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Giglio.
Yes, and tag, you're it.
You're stepping on my second toes.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 172.
Authorizes attendance at the 2020 New York State Town Clerks Association, NYSTCA, Annual State Conference. So moved.
Bayrock, second.
Second.
Okay, vote please.
Bayrock.
Yes.
Kent.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Giglio.
Yes.
Aguirre.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 173.
Author. Is that you? Okay.
They're a little mixed
A
up
little.
today, the
I know.
resolutions. I gotta
Authorizes,
say.
authorizes budget officer to attend, New York, what is this? New York State Office of State Comptroller accounting class, so moved.
Second.
Vote please.
Bayrock.
Yes.
Kent.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Giglio.
Yes.
Aguirre.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 174.
Authorizes purchasing agent to attend U.S. Department of Justice Collusion Strike Force Antitrust Crimes Training. So moved.
Seconded.
Vote please.
Bayrock.
Yes.
Kent.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Giglio.
Yes.
Aguirre.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 175.
Authorizes the removal of fixed assets. So moved.
Seconded?
Vote please.
Bayrock.
Yes.
Kent.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Giglio.
Yes.
Aguirre.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 176.
Authorizes the removal of fixed assets, so moved.
Second.
Vote please. Okay, vote please.
Bayrock.
Yes.
Kent.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Giglio.
Yes.
Aguirre.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 177.
Authorizes town clerk to publish and post public notice to consider a local law to amend Chapter 105 of the Riverhead Town Code entitled Boards, Commissions, and Councils. So moved.
Second.
Vote please.
Bayrock.
Yes.
Kent.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Giglio.
Yes.
Aguirre.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 178.
Authorizes application to Suffolk County for HUD home funds and authorizes supervisor to execute grant agreement. So moved.
Seconded.
Vote please.
Bayrock.
Yes.
Kent.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Giglio.
Yes.
Aguirre.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 179.
Authorizes the filing of an application to New York State Department of Transportation for 2020 FTA Section 5310, Enhanced Mobility of Seniors and Individuals with Disabilities Program, funding assistance and signing of the associated state contract under the appropriate laws of New York State. So moved.
Seconded?
Vote please.
Bayrock.
Yes.
Kent.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Giglio.
Yes.
Aguirre.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 180.
Awards bid for one new Ventrac 3400Y compact tractor. So moved.
Second.
Do you know
Vote
that tractor?
please.
Bayrock.
Yes.
Kent.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Giglio.
Yes.
Aguirre.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 181.
Authorization to publish and post bid for buses for summer recreation and teen camp trips. So moved.
Second.
Vote please.
Bayrock.
Yes.
Kent.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Giglio.
Yes.
Aguirre.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 182.
Authorizes town clerk to publish and post notice to bidders for the 2020 annual construction contract. So moved.
Seconded.
Vote please.
Bayrock.
Yes.
Kent.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Giglio.
Yes.
Aguirre.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 183.
Authorizes to publish and post for the 2020 annual procurement contract. So moved.
Seconded?
Vote please.
Bayrock.
Yes.
Kent.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Giglio.
Yes.
Aguirre.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 184.
Sets fees for uses of recreation and other town facilities. So moved.
Second.
Vote please.
Bayrock.
Yes.
Kent.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Giglio.
Yes.
Aguirre.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 185.
Sergeant's Recreational Center Sewer Extension Capital Project number 81902, budget adjustment. So moved.
Second.
Vote please.
Bayrock.
Yes.
Kent.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Giglio.
Yes.
Aguirre.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 186.
Authorization to correct typographical error extending bid contract for water meters and accessory equipment or reasonable equivalent and repair to meter reading equipment for the Riverhead Water District. So moved.
Seconded.
Vote please.
Bayrock.
Yes.
Kent.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Giglio.
Yes.
Aguirre.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 187.
Authorizes notice to bidders, test well program Phase 1, installation of groundwater monitoring wells, capital project number 4, Riverhead Water District. So moved.
Seconded.
Vote please.
Bayrock.
Yes.
Kent.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Giglio.
Yes.
Aguirre.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 188.
Authorization to purchase Calrays 2109 for the Water District. So moved.
Second.
Vote please.
Bayrock.
Yes.
Kent.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Giglio.
Yes.
Aguirre.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 189.
Authorizes co-sponsorship of the Live on 25 Street Festival on July 2nd, 2020, and August 13th, 2020 rain date, August 27, 2020, 5 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. with the Riverhead Business Improvement District Management Association, Inc., along Main Street between Griffin Avenue and Union Avenue. Authorizes the supervisor to execute a license agreement with designated craft food vendors, alcohol vendors, and other parties. Suspends enforcement of Riverhead Town Code Section 2053 as solely limited to the aforementioned dates, time, and place of the Alive on 25 Street Festival. So moved.
Second.
Good job.
Vote please.
Bayrock.
Yes.
Kent.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Giglio.
Yes.
Aguirre.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 190.
Authorizes the supervisor to execute an agreement with the Riverhead Business Improvement District Management Association Incorporated regarding the 2020 calendar year events and services, Nunc Pro Tunc. So moved.
Seconded.
Vote please.
Bayrock.
Yes.
Kent.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Giglio.
Yes.
Aguirre.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 191.
Authorizes settlement of legal action by Ketavan Openhowski against the town of Riverhead. So moved.
Seconded.
Vote please.
Bayrock.
Yes.
Kent.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Giglio.
Yes.
Aguirre.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 192.
Pays bills. So moved.
Second.
Vote please.
Bayrock.
Yes.
Kent.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes.
Giglio.
Yes.
Aguirre.
Yes.
Resolution adopted.
Okay. Pretty lengthy there. All right, moving forward, we're gonna open up the floor for any open comments to the public. You have 5 minutes. Please come forward if you'd like to speak and identify yourself and your hamlet.
Sal Mastropolo, Calverton. I have a question to the town board. In the past, has the town ever been notified by Suffolk County as to how many unaccompanied alien children have been placed in the town of Riverhead in the past years?
I don't think that people would keep stats on that. Obviously,
Well,
I know of, I
We
don't
haven't been
know.
asked that, but I know that other people that the school board that are here have
Have been
asked
asked.
that.
Well, I've done some research,
Okay.
and they keep track by state, they keep track by county. And Suffolk County has the largest number of placements in New York State, over 5,000. Nassau County is second, over 5,000, and I think Queens is third, over 4,000. I've been attempting, and I have emails to Zeldin and Krupski, to try to find out how many placements have been in the town of Riverhead. Because if you ask me, we're getting the bulk of the placements because all the other school districts are going down in numbers and Riverhead
Many.
is going up.
Yep.
So I'm asking the town board, can you exert some pressure, okay, on Krupski or Zeldin to get us the numbers of placements in the town of Riverhead. Now, when I spoke to Krupski's aide, she went to the Commissioner of Social Services, and she was told that he doesn't keep track, but that Catholic Charities assists in the placements, and that they may have the number. And it's been more than 2 weeks, and I'm still waiting for a response. Okay,
And
so
when you say placements, what do you mean?
okay, the way they place unaccompanied children is they get sponsors. The sponsor comes forward, and they have to, I guess, prove residency and the ability to house these children, okay? And then these children are placed, okay? And they literally live in these homes in the towns. Where do they go to school? In the town. What's killing the Riverhead School District? Those placements. That's my opinion. But I'm trying to get the numbers by township, okay? Schools in Brookhaven, they're closing buildings, okay? The enrollments are going down, and hours are constantly going up. It's to your benefit and to the school district's benefit to understand the number of unaccompanied alien children being placed in that town, because it's adding to our illegal housing, and it's adding to our school district concerns. Thank you.
You're
Yeah,
welcome.
I agree with you, and you know what, I just wanna say on that note that, you know, the enrollment process for these children that are here, or for any children that's coming into the Riverhead School District, is you say, you know, I'm the aunt, or I'm the uncle, and I'm taking this kid in, and the kid is enrolled in the school. And I think that it's, problematic. I think that the enrollment measures in the school district have to be vamped up. I saw Matatuck-Cutchogue School District where the owner has to sign an affidavit with the deed or the lease to whoever's living in the house that they own, and they have to list all the names of the tenants within that structure if it's not owner occupied. And then they have to sign that affidavit, and they have to say that I know that if this situation changes, that I have to notify the school district, and if I don't notify the school district that those people are no longer living there, that I can be penalized for, and have to pay for their transportation and for their education. And the owners have to sign under penalty of perjury that they have to notify the school district if that rental agreement is no longer in place. But they ask for the deed, and they ask for the rental registration. What I have suggested to school board members is, when somebody's registering to put their kids in Riverhead School District, and they don't have a deed, they have a lease, that lease should have to be furnished on an annual basis in order to re-register your kids for the following year. Because in my opinion, there are a lot of people that are attending Riverhead School District that may no longer live in those houses, but are still registered in the school district. And I mean, I witnessed myself last Tuesday, when I was driving by a house that I had saw bulk pickup out on a Tuesday, when bulk pickup isn't until Thursday or Friday. So I called code enforcement, I said, come down, write these people a ticket. And code enforcement came down, they said, this is the owner. They went, they knocked on the door, I said, is that the owner? And the person inside the house was told by the contractor who was working on this 2,600 square foot garage in the back, that was a detached garage with a garage on the first floor and living space on the second floor, came and told her, don't say anything to them. So then, 10 minutes later, the owner shows up. And, you know, so now, a week later, I'm driving by, and I see a minivan pull up at that house, and I see 2 school-aged children get out with backpacks on their back and go into the house. Then, 5 minutes later, I see another car pull up, and 1 school-aged child gets out with a backpack on their back, and they go into the house, 500 square foot house. So I sit there and wait for 45 minutes for the bus to come. I call the bus company, say, what time is the bus picking up at this address? They tell me 8:30. I wait 45 minutes, and I watch all 3 children leave the house and get on the bus.
I just want to quickly corroborate what she said, what Councilwoman said about the town of Brookhaven, because I do own homes in that area, and we do have to fill forms out that enumerate every single person, and the owners of the dwelling have to sign off, and it goes directly to the school district. So that is absolutely true.
Okay, and in addition to both of the council individuals making their statements, we know a couple of weeks ago we passed legislation to open lines of communication between the school board and Riverhead Town, and code enforcement. So it's like a prong task force. We are gonna reach out to the community. I've reached out to, the school board president to see if he'll open lines of communication yesterday. Today, the superintendent has reached out to me. She wants to become part of the task force and engage. And so the lines of communication are starting to be open. As far as residency reports, I was at a school board meeting, and I remember the first one I went to, an individual read the protocol for residency, and they went online. They actually just went online, whatever was online, they read, okay? And we had posed a possible residency component to admission in the schools, and we were told that that was illegal. However, I have the Southampton residency application here, so I'm assuming that it's illegal according to the Riverhead School District. I also have the QUAG. These have to be notified, very similar to what Councilwoman Giglio stated. These are residency applications. And again, you had stated earlier that enrollment is going down. It's going down in many towns, even Brentwood. And we would never have thought that enrollment would go down in Brentwood. This is a long process. This is not gonna happen overnight. I've met with code enforcement. They have been absolute, and the attorney who's in charge, Eric Howard, and they have been very helpful. We have opened up the lines of communication with some people. We intend to. I have gotten a ton of emails, make a statement for or against it. That's not we're not gonna politicize. This is a problem that has to be addressed at the core. You have to deal with the underlying issue before you go for before a bond. We're here to work with you, but we are not going to, and again, somebody sent some letter threatening if you don't do this, that's not gonna work, not in this town hall. You might wanna take that back to the school district if that's what's gonna happen. We're gonna try to be as professional. We're not gonna politicize this, and we're gonna work with as many people who are willing to work with us. And again, 2 weeks ago, we started the Riverhead School District Task Force. We've gotten quite a bit of interest from the community, and we hope that we can keep the momentum going.
Okay. I understand the residency requirements, and I understand that that has to be enforced. My concern is closing the door of Riverhead
Right.
to future unaccompanied alien children if we're getting more than every other town in Suffolk County, okay? And you need to find out how many are being placed in that town. I don't know how you do that. I'm trying to get it from Zeldin and Krupski. Any assistance you could provide in putting pressure on somebody to get the numbers, even if it's to go to Catholic Charities, we all benefit. You benefit, the school benefits, and the taxpayers benefit. Thank you.
Thank you, Sal.
I just want to chime in here a little bit. I don't disagree that our enrollment is going up when surrounding towns' enrollments are not going up. But there are a lot of factors that come into play. Obviously, in the town, we're concerned about overcrowded housing, and that is something that as a town, we are in charge of. As far as the school district and residency, I would think by law, they can't release that information. And I don't think that that's something that the town should necessarily do. We each have things that we need to do. The town has stuff they need to do, we have stuff we need to do, and certainly working together is never a bad idea in areas that we can work together. We also don't get enough state aid in Riverhead, which is always an issue for Riverhead. Historically has not gotten their fair share of state aid. We also school children from other towns. So there are a lot of factors that we all need to look at that come into play with all of this. But one thing I have found personally upsetting, and it was brought up today, you know, as a teacher for 38 years, I felt very strongly that I needed to be an advocate for children, and I still feel that I'm an advocate for children. And it would be very upsetting to me as a parent to have people sitting in their cars and watching my children get off the bus and go into their house, and I constantly see people writing on social media that they were sitting in their car and observing children and posting pictures of children, little, kindergartners and first graders walking into their house. People need to think about how you would feel if that was your child and people were sitting in cars, sort of stalking them and watching them and taking pictures of it. It just doesn't work in today's world.
Well, if you're referring to me, there was no stalking. It was a drive-by observation of a minivan dropping children off into a house and then calling the school district to find out how many kids are registered to that house. And I do want to say that I did foil some information from the school district, and I'm going to read in the record the response of Sam Schneider from the school district that says, I write concerning your FOIL request for certain registration-related information. A copy of your request is attached for your reference. Concerning your request for information as to percentage of students attending the district with Southampton Town, Brookhaven Town addresses, I have no documents that are responsive to your request. The district does not organize its records by township, but rather by specific address. So now I'm going to have my assistant pull all the street names in the district, Riverhead district, that are in Southampton Town and Brookhaven Town, to find out how many kids from other townships are attending Riverhead schools. Because we're overcrowded and they're not.
Well, I
Concerning
think
your
it's-
request, if I could finish.
Sorry.
There are 14 students registered in the district in grades K through 12 with a home address of 11 West Main Street, Riverhead. That's the new apartment building that's built downtown, Conifer. There are 3 students registered in the district in grades K through 12 with a home address of 40 Peconic Avenue, Riverhead. I spoke to the manager of 40 Peconic Avenue. She said there's only 2 kids that live in that building. There is 1 student registered in the district in grades K through 12 with a home address of either 128 East Main Street, 129 East Main Street, or 130 East Main Street, which is above the Woolworth building. Concerning your request for affidavits from the town of Riverhead concerning a student's home address is in compliance with a rental permit, we have no documents that are responsive to your request. Concerning your request for affidavits from property owners for a listing of all tenants, we have no documents that are responsive to your request. Concerning your request for affidavits from property owners on an annual basis for the renewal of student registration, we have no documents that are responsive to your request. Concerning your request for leases, deeds submitted on an annual basis for the renewal of student registration, we have no documents that are responsive to your request. Concerning your request for any data that has been shared with the town of Riverhead, we have no documents that are responsive to your request. For record-keeping purposes, kindly acknowledge receipt of this email so that we may close your request.
Well said, and we also need to address the homes that have 8 children with their parents, or at least one parent living in the basement. We don't want, obviously these homes do not have proper electricity, proper forms of egress, and we don't wanna lose 6 or 8 kids in a basement to a fire because we didn't do what we had to do.
Well, the overcrowded homes do put families in danger. I mean, we have seen unsafe situations, and I think that it also is unsafe for the neighbors too. So this is something that as a town, we need to move forward on, but something else we need to think about is increasing the fines. You know, things we've talked about, we need to increase the fines for these landlords that certainly don't play by the rules. And we also need to be taking more of these landlords to Supreme Court. So this is a complicated issue, and we need to all come together and work on it, but, I will reiterate that let's be cautious and respectful that these are young children.
Of course, and the safety, and we understand that. In the past, we had not had a Supreme Court decision, I don't know in how long. Well, I'm glad to say, we have 3 already filed. In 2 months, we had 3 Supreme Court decisions filed. And so code enforcement, the town attorneys, they're working diligently. And again, we're gonna continue on this avenue, and we're hoping that we can get input and the committee supports us in our effort. We are not here to stalk children, or allegedly to stalk, or to stalk parents, or to displace children. The people who belong in our school district should be residents. And we also have to consider the taxpayers, okay? Residents and taxpayers, I'm sure if you address those 2 issues, you'll be able to have a bond floated again.
And Stephanie, just give me one more second. So one thing that the town did do several years ago is when people were going to the Riverhead Water District and saying, we want to switch the water over into our name, they would just, the Riverhead Water District would just switch the bill over into, you know, someone else's name. Now, with a lease or a deed or whatever, they would just switch it over. So now what I implemented many years ago is that the Riverhead Water District has to have an affidavit from the owner saying that this water bill can be switched from my name into a tenant's name, and then those affidavits are being sent over to code enforcement, so code enforcement can check to make sure if we have a rental permit on that property. So, you know, we are working towards the right solutions, and a lot has come out with this bond vote, and I agree every child should be educated and it's not the child's fault, but at the same time, we can't be taken advantage of. People are being taxed out of their homes.
Stephanie, just 1 second. Want to try to get a word in
Might as well
edgewise
get a
here.
chair.
You're very
Sorry.
patient.
There's plenty of blame to go around. Town is at fault, school district is at fault. There's no doubt about it. One thing I saw on the news the other night, there was a school district up west, and they had classes going on that it's been an overcrowding problem for at least 2 to 3 years now. They had classes where kids were actually standing in the class for the class period because they didn't have enough chairs to seat the students in the class. That's how bad it got. What they ended up doing is they hired what they called a residency officer, because they were having a similar problem that we're having here,
Devin,
where kids were being
Can you make a copy?
brought in, driven in, dropped off,
copies.
and they weren't
And give one
necessarily
to
Riverhead
the
School
press.
District children. They might have been coming from outside the area, and the same thing was happening with the school. The residency officer is in charge, because I know there is an issue in sharing information between the school board and the town board. And it's not anybody's fault, it's just the way that the law is. This would allow things to be done because we can't get that information from the school, yet a residency officer can, and he can go out, and he does go out, and he verifies, he looks at a listing of all the students enrolled in the district. And then they match by addresses. And then they put together groups of, oh, there's 12 people at one address. That might be suspicious. So that's one of the first places he's gonna go. And that's how he works down the line. As I said, there's plenty of blame to go around. That's an idea for the school district. An idea for us, which we are doing, is increasing our code enforcement. We have 2 new officers we're about to interview and hire. Unfortunately, we lost our code compliance officer. She passed away, and so it's kind of put us behind a little bit. We just got the new one hired as per our resolution today. So it kind of mucked things up a little bit, but we are definitely moving forward. And even without that, we were able to get 3 Supreme Court cases in. I also want to tell you that going to the Supreme Court is not always the best way to do this. A lot of times we get better results right here by doing town codes and going through town court. Number one, it's less expensive. Number two, the time process is very long going into Supreme Court. Going into town code, we can usually get a resolution to the situation much faster at a much greater expense, and we see that resolution come out very fast. So just throwing the word out there, Supreme Court, doesn't necessarily mean that, ooh, you know, we're really going after them now, because we can really go after them in town court also. And we are, and we have been. But collectively, and with Supervisor Aguiar starting this task force between the school district and the town, I think it's gonna allow us both to hit the ground running and come up and make a very, very substantial difference in what has been happening in the past couple of years in this district.
I also favor Supreme Court because you can also get more action, such as having a warrant to go in if we find that the circumstances are dire and the individuals.
Correct.
And you can't do that in district court. So if you have 8 people who are living in a cottage, and you know, and you see, such as Councilwoman Giglio saw, it looks like there's a huge excessive amount of people in that location. Sometimes you need to go in quickly, and you need to go in, you know, for the safety and the welfare of the occupants in the home. But I made this available. This is the Quag affidavit. It does exist. It's also a school, so if anybody wants a copy, you have copies of it? You put them out? Okay. And, again, I'm sorry, Stephanie, you've been very patient, and
Wait, I got one more
you
thing.
gotta state your name and your Hamlet, and you're
Hold
not.
on, Stephanie, just,
Okay.
you know, I did support increasing the fines for landlords, and I still support that. Frankly, I think our fines are not stiff enough that they really deter these landlords, so that's something that we need to still look to. That's it.
Hi, Stephanie Rangeli, Riverhead. I want to first start off by saying that I support Councilwoman Kent's position on, first and foremost, education is within the children, and that is also how I stand. I think all children deserve the greatest education that we can offer. And to start off, we have some amazing teachers within our district. But I think it's also a time where both our district and our local township are facing unprecedented concerns that have been built up by their precedents. Like, in other words, you have Dr. Enriquez, who is, even though she's been our superintendent for more than a year, she's had to build upon what was left for her. Same with supervisor here. She has to also restructure maybe some things that were prior to her taking her position as our town supervisor. Councilman Hubbard, I also want to just support what you just said. Back in September, when we were faced with our enrollment, myself and my husband actually met with the superintendent, and being that he is somebody in education, his district, along with the district that I came from, had to also face overcrowding concerns. We did make a suggestion that somebody be appointed, just that position and only that position. The school district did take a position in working with us, and by the next board meeting, the person who also, and somebody else can correct me because I don't have her name in front of me right now, I believe the person who oversees that also holds multiple positions, such as overseeing special education, just enrollment, and I don't know how many people, I did ask how many people were underneath her that actually facilitate that position. I had not gotten those numbers, and I will continue to do that. However, being that that's a district issue, this is a town thing also, I just want to say that as a resident and as a realtor, I've been in the real estate industry for 20-something years. We have to follow some certain guidelines as well. But I also want to point out that it is not just the renting that is a concern. There are people that are able to financially afford homes and expensive homes, but how so they choose to house, or who they so choose to house in their home, I guess that's where I'm questioning it. Growing up in an incorporated village, they set forth certain rules and regulations, such as no parking on the street. If you parked on the street after 11 o'clock, you had to come up with a registration, a person who owned that car, and let the town know how long they were going to be staying. So if you had a kid from out of, a relative from out of town, they're staying for 3 days. But if they stayed longer, they had to, that was questioned. Because, again, going to other townships and looking at what they can do, in Hampton Bays, there is rules and regulations for square footage of a home that whether you're renting or you own, that allows you a certain amount of people that can reside there. I don't know if that's something that is just a state, local level, or what we can look into at that point. But again, it's not just the renting and the cracking down, and I do support the overcrowding of housing, especially for the safety of our children. Because the last thing we need to do, because it does trickle down, the loss of a child doesn't affect a parent, it affects the kids. And to go to school and hear that your friend, whether you only see them in school or you play with them outside, is a heartbreaking, wrenching situation. So I do support the cracking down of overcrowding. But I think as a realtor, we also have to look at, we are selling homes. And what they do with those homes is up to the owner. But we also have to keep in mind the safety and the overcrowding of those homes, because it just weighs down not just the schools, but our public service departments, sanitation, water, sewage. I mean, the quality of life alone and the number of people that we do house within our small township, even though it is geographically large. That's what I just was interested in seeing, where we're looking at that. Because I know Hampton Bays, especially with the rental laws that just came out, rental laws are very strict right now about the amount of monies that you can collect up front and things such as that. So that is starting to change, not just here in Riverhead, but across all of Suffolk County. But in Hampton
Stephanie-
Bays, they do have to verify residency for schools, but they have the square footage regulation as well.
Okay, our code enforcement, unit is in the process of revising the, you wanna say a couple of, comments, Rich?
Rich is here.
Yeah, Rich, come up to the front.
While he's stepping up, the state does have,
Regulations.
State
in the
law.
residential code, habitability requirements as far as how large a room must be in order for one person to be in a bedroom, and then how many can be, what the minimum requirements would be for 2 people in a bedroom, et cetera. Then, there's also a tie-in for living space that's associated with those bedrooms.
And we were in the
That's in the
process.
state code.
Right, okay. I just was curious to see what the stance was within Riverhead, especially because I
We
know
are
I hear a lot of.
revising them, and
I
he'll
appreciate-
say a couple of words,
Perfect.
but we, Rich Downs, who's spearheading this component of it, he'll say, but we are working with the
And I
codes.
just want to also, lastly, before I listen to this gentleman, I just want to say thank you, and I appreciate all that you're doing, especially with the task force. I think that, you know, with everything that this township faces, that I think it's a wonderful idea that the town and the school get together and work collaboratively. Thank you.
It's about time, prior to the
Yeah, I
bond
agree.
being floated, there was absolutely no communication.
Thank you.
And we're gonna start the conversation. Thank you.
And, before Rich speaks, when I was on the liaison to code enforcement, before 2018, when, Laura Jensman took office, we were working on a lot of things to address these issues, and, you know, including no parking on the front lawn, and including, you know, why do we have to allow engineers, outside engineers, to go and inspect rental units? You know, and that is something that has been tried in the court, and we haven't been able to get away from. So, in a lot of overcrowded situations where, you know, someone's coming in for a rental permit, they have a choice. They can either use our code enforcement officer to go in and inspect, or they can hire an outside engineer. And it wasn't until, I think it was probably 2014, I think we received 25 letters from an engineer dated the same day that he inspected all of these houses, and I started to question that engineer. And then the town attorney looked into it and found out that we had to allow outside engineers to inspect these rental houses. And so, you know, that's an option for landlords, and we did raise the fines for landlords.
Okay, Rich?
Yes. Let me first of all start off by saying I've been working for the town for 21 years. And, you know, I've seen this problem go from, you know, bad to worse. We receive many complaints regarding overcrowded housing. I can personally tell you that we handle these types of complaints accordingly and swiftly. You know, they're expedited, they're thoroughly investigated. We are bound by the New York State Code when it comes to occupancy relating to, you know, how many people can live in a house. When we get a rental permit application in, generally what we do is we take that floor plan that's submitted with that application, and we come up with a figure based off of the state code on how many people can occupy a house. So, to answer the last speaker, yes, that is what we do. We come up with a number for a house. As the board has addressed, you know, some of the good things that are happening right now, we're hiring 2 more code enforcement officers. They have to be trained. That takes time. But it's going to help us out a lot when we're dealing with these types of complaints. I think it's just a great thing that, you know, we're getting additional staff.
And you also almost completed with revising the code.
Yeah, that's another thing that we've done. We're just about 99% done with that, and that's going to be a great thing also. It's going to allow for stiffer penalties for landlords or owners, anybody who violates, you know, has an overcrowded house.
Perfect, thank you. Anyone else want to come forward with comments?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Stephen Lagnina. I'm from a resident of Aquabog.
Okay.
So I have a few items I just wanted to address. One, it seems like enrollment has been a key focus, and I think it's multifaceted. One thing that I haven't heard today, and it does concern me, is that we have a history in Riverhead of housing booms and willingness to change over some agricultural land to homes. Now that occurred about 20 years ago. Well, if we were to fast forward to 20 years now, those homes that did not exist now have a number of children in those homes that are now part of the Riverhead School District. Just as I'm coming to Riverhead Town Hall, I see 3 giant buildings now on Main Street that will house probably students, and that is going to escalate our enrollment. So while I am concerned about a variety, the multifaceted approach, I think we also have to look at the elephant in the room, which is we chose as a town to allow for all these houses to be built. So maybe there are other concerns that we may have when it's relative to who is going to our school, but that is a big item that we really have to consider, and then we have to contemplate, well, what do we do? Because we are going to need a bond. The only other option I see is to start looking at, well, how can the town provide relief to the district? And that's where I have to applaud the town board for taking that action and working with the school board. I think it's imperative that the two entities work together. I also wanted to address a concern that I saw in a Facebook post from one of the council folks. If you want, I'm happy to share the name, but I will just leave it anonymous at this point unless you so desire the name. But a Facebook post by a council person was raised that there was a criticism for the bond occurring during the snowbird season. Okay. Now, I have a problem with that because here I am sitting in a virtually empty room at 2 p.m. when most people are working. Now, if the same logic were to apply, we would then say that, well, there should be absolutely no bond because we have some people who chose to have a second house in Florida. We really should wait until they get back. So likewise, I think now the town should seriously consider moving all 2 p.m. meetings to 6 p.m. so that the hardworking taxpayers and parents can be here. Because that is imperative that we now get more involved with each other when it comes to the town and the school. Now, I am a parent of 2 children that go to the school. I have nieces and nephews that have been to Riverhead Central School District. We've had a phenomenal education. I have also seen lots of growth in the town. And so we have these 2 entities that really have the ability of doing a lot of good. But at the same time, I'm concerned about the civility on it. And I've seen some websites and I've seen some threats, and this, Madam Supervisor, I do not like threats, just like you. I don't think we should be threatening each other. I think we have to find ways of working together.
No, we shouldn't. However, you know, in order for a bond to go through, we have to deal with the underlying and the entire community.
Yep.
And so any posting along those lines, that was the message, and maybe it was misconstrued. However, you need full community engagement.
Another issue I'd like to address is that 4 residents have approached me about sending emails to town officials, and they haven't received responses. It's just imperative that, I know we all get caught up in our day-to-day operations, but it's imperative that those folks do receive responses. They could not be here because all 4 of them are working. So I'm acting on their behalf at this point. As far as the issue about the bond goes, I'm really excited that the town is going to work with the task force, with the school district, and I really hope to hear more reports on that.
Yes, and the reception has been very good so far. Well, I would say within the last month, it has been very good, and hopefully we're going to continue with that synergy.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
The last question, just going back to the board meetings, so they are, I think 50% of them are when the taxpayers are working. What I would like to do is to offer the town to consider a motion to switch those meetings from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. when folks are actually able to attend.
The reason I think it was done was years ago, and there were complaints from some of our senior citizen population that coming out at night, especially in the winter months when it's dark at 4:30 in the afternoon, that they weren't comfortable and weren't really coming out to the meetings. So I think that's why they split. This goes back way before I came on the board, but that's what I've always been told is the reason there were two different time sets.
And we do have some 6 o'clock every couple of months.
Well,
One a
every other
month
one
is
is,
at 6 o'clock.
one is at 2, one is at
So
6, and it
6.
alternates back and forth.
10, 2, and 6 to allow people who may work at night come during the day, and the people who work during the day, maybe they can make a 2 or maybe make a 6. So you can't keep, everybody, they are staggered, and I think 10, 2, and 6 is appropriate to try to reach as much as the community as you
Well,
can.
10's a work session, it's
Yeah.
not a board meeting.
Okay.
But you bring up some good points, actually, and for me, the 3 houses by me sold, and 2 out of 3 are young families. So, we do need to, and there are many issues that feed into this, as I mentioned earlier, and you brought up one of them. But we do need to look at our town long-term and think about how much housing we're bringing in, and I think that's all the more reason that we need to, move forward with our master plan update. So, thank you for your points.
And thank you for your service to our community.
Okay, thank you for your comments.
Kathy Bresney, Riverhead. In concern of the overcrowding of the schools leads to the overcrowding of the apartments and the homes. What wasn't considered here was that the firefighters take their lives into their hands when they go into a building, that they don't realize that there are rooms down in the basement made into with made walls or apartments. So being a firefighter's wife, I really feel, and I lived in the city and had been in terrible fires as a child, that really needs to be on your first and forethought of protecting our firefighters and our EMTs when they go into the buildings. It's very important. I didn't hear that, and of course it's for the children, because the children have no control over what their parents do, and really, that's the point. We want to protect the children. They don't realize that their parents are there, several families living together. They don't realize that. So I just want you to realize that. Also, to take the firefighters, our fire department members, into consideration when you have your task force.
And they are part of it.
No, I
And
know,
we need-
but
you
I'm
need
just
it.
saying,
And you need them.
Yeah, you need them, because I heard stories years ago when this was coming into fruition that there were, in the basements, there was walls up, and the fire department didn't realize that, the members didn't realize that. And so that's an accident waiting to happen. And they are volunteers, and they don't get paid for this, and so that we need to be extra precautionary for them. As far as the code enforcement, that's a great idea, having more code enforcement officers. But really, 8 to 4, not so many people are home. They need to be out 4 to 12 and 12 to 8 to be around, checking out the areas of concern.
We do have people, I believe we do
And
have
on
people
weekends,
on
and
all
that's
weekends.
Okay.
We don't wanna give away everything.
Yes, you can, okay?
No, I'm
That's
just
part
saying,
of
that's just my
enforcement.
opinion.
Leave that up to us.
Okay.
When I was liaison to code enforcement and we were seeking extra positions for more code enforcement officers, we went to civil service and asked if we could have employees working in unconventional hours. So it wasn't the 8:30 to 4:30 when I was liaison to code enforcement. So we got somebody to come in from 5 o'clock in the morning until noon, or from 4 o'clock at night until midnight, and then on Saturdays and Sundays. So their hours were Thursday through Monday. So that's something that I wanted when we hired code enforcement officers way back when.
And we're working on that.
And the code enforcement is also working with the fire marshals, and we had code enforcement meetings with the fire chiefs, the fire marshals, code enforcement, the town attorney, that they were going to take pictures and notify police department when they went into a house and saw extension cords dragged across the rooms. That was something that we worked on when I was liaison to code enforcement, to make sure that They were equipped with cameras, which they all are now. They have the tablets where they can take pictures and report to code enforcement when they see code violations or fire hazards or mattresses in the basement or all over the house.
I'm confused, were you liaison to code until just a month or so ago?
No, I wasn't, actually, I'm looking through my emails now to let me know when the code enforcement committee meetings were, because they were always you and the supervisor in her office. Yeah.
Fire supervisor.
Okay, and my last
In
one.
any case, that's part of enforcement. As a law enforcement officer, we got this. We know where we have to do.
No,
Yep.
I have the
I
faith
thank you
of our
for
department.
taking a
Okay.
great interest and following through, because that's what we need to do, is follow through. Now that I have all 5 of you here, I was a jury member on February 27th. I went over here to the Justice Court, and our Judge Alan Smith 4 times stated, 9:30, 10 o'clock, 10:30, 11 o'clock, that he wanted the town board officials to know, and I know that Catherine is on the Justice Court, that
She
it's
is.
overcrowded
Councilwoman Giglio.
and and cramped. And so he wanted us, all the people, that were like 88 of them in there, in that little room, that there's no jury room if you were to go out to, I guess if you got onto a case. And he wanted to make sure that, he's been talking about, I think, for 10 years plus, and that we really need to do something about the overcrowding and the crampedness in the court justice, room. So I know you're all aware of it, but I did my part. I came here to tell you. Thank you.
Thanks, Kathy.
Just want to clarify the meetings that the councilwoman is referring to. Those were meetings that were the police chief. They weren't just about code enforcement. Those were meetings about downtown. I actually was brought into some of the meetings because I was on the downtown revitalization committee. You were at some of the meetings as well, but
2
that was
during the last 3 months.
well, that was your choice. You were invited.
No, I was not invited.
Well, I wasn't involved in that. But anyway, those were meetings where we looked at a lot of issues downtown with code enforcement. We didn't just look at overcrowded housing. So, those were those meetings that I sat in and occasionally because as the downtown person. And those were things we were working on with the downtown revitalization committee. But I do think you are liaison to code enforcement.
As of January of this year, yes, I am, when Jim Wooten left. But I do recall
Oh, I didn't
during,
know it was Jim.
No,
but I do
okay.
recall during the budget process, Catherine, you talking about the solution to the Justice Court was to bring in the mobile trailers into the back, and that's something that had been discussed for a couple of years before it was actually put into the budget last year for $12,000 to bring a mobile trailer behind the Justice Court to accommodate some of the employees. And, it's not even enough money, because we need sanitary system, we need everything else. I mean, but you were proud to say that during the budget process, that you were happy to see that $12,000 in the budget to fix the Justice Court problems.
I don't recall that, but that is a
Okay,
dire situation, and I'm
so-
glad
Okay.
Kathy.
This
I'm
doesn't
glad you
belong
brought
in
it
this
up.
type of meeting, going back and forth.
Right.
That's when you have private conversations. Anything administratively and back and forth does not belong on TV. We're wasting people's
You're right.
with the time. So let's move forward. Do we have anyone else coming up forward?
Yes, Yolanda Thompson, Bating Hollow. I just
You might want to speak up.
name.
Can you hear?
Your name and
Raise it
Hamlet,
up?
please? Yeah,
Okay.
there you go.
It's falling down.
Oh.
I just want to thank the town board for being well-informed on the school issues, on the issues that we're facing in our school district.
Ma'am, can you
Thank
just
for doing-
repeat your name, because I don't think we still have it?
Yolanda Thompson,
Okay,
Bating Hollow.
okay, thank you. Now we got it.
Yeah. As I was saying, thank you for being well-informed on the school issues, for doing your research and doing your homework, and most of all, for listening to the public. Obviously, as it's been gone over, we're identifying the problems. Both entities, obviously, both the town and the school district, both need to ensure that whatever laws and policies are in place, that they're being followed. I think that's part of the problem. It's not that we don't have policies, it's not that we don't have laws on the books. I think part of the problem is that the ball's being dropped in different areas, and also too, when this task force comes together, and thank you also for putting that together, that's very important. We need to look at the areas where there might be loopholes in our policies and our laws that are being exploited and that are being abused. and look for ways to close up those loopholes. But most importantly, like I said, we need to look at our policies and look at the areas where we're not doing, following through. We're not enforcing, for example, the school district, their responsibility is to enforce the residency requirements. And they, in my opinion, they need to do a better job on checking the documentation and following through on that, and also to following through on the homes that are already registered and making sure that whoever has stated in the past that they were registered and living in those homes, that needs to be followed up as well. So again, like I said, I think the taxpayers are sending out the message to both the town government and also to the school district. We know what the problems are. Let's get to work, and let's get to, let's work together on the problem and stop tossing the hot potato back and forth. No, it's not my job. No, it's your job. We all need to come together, and we all need to work on this
Finger-pointing.
together. Okay,
A
thank
lot
you.
of finger pointing.
And I just only had one question on one of the resolutions. It was Resolution 170 about ratifying the appointment of an interpreter for police department and the justice quest. What kind of an interpreter? Is
That was a Polish-speaking interpreter.
Okay. My question was, do we have any sort of interpreters for people that might be hard of hearing? Deaf, hard of hearing?
We
For the
have
provision?
we have the phone system within the police department that deals with people who can't hear, where a red light goes off on their phone at home and it comes into headquarters,
Okay,
and then they can type a message out.
okay,
That's in the police department. I don't think it's anywhere else in the town.
okay. All right, thank you.
You're welcome. I just wanted to jump on something a little bit. Sal kind of touched base on this when he talked about the unaccompanied alien children and about our enrollment going up year to year. Having been a police officer in this town for 32 years and having 5 of my own children go through this district, along with my wife and myself, from kindergarten through graduation, I've seen a lot of changes over the years. Not only are the unaccompanied alien children increasing, but it's my opinion that also social service placement is increasing. And social service placement becomes an issue because once a child moves into this town, goes to our school district, they're ours. Now, with social services, they may put them in Wading River today, but a month from now, they maybe have another opening over in Hampton Bays. Well, guess what? That kid is a Riverhead School District child. So Riverhead School District has to send a bus over to Hampton Bays, pick that child up, and bring them over to Riverhead. Now multiply that for all of the placements from social services that are done in this town, and it's a huge cost factor, number one, for the taxpayers. And number two, we have to be mindful and we have to be careful about what we wish for in terms of finding out if these children do belong in this town or don't belong in this town. Because if we find out they're not here, but they're in our school district, we could possibly have to pay to bus them and transport them back to their home district, which would be Riverhead. So that in itself could be a very expensive proposition. I learned that lesson when I was on the school board years back, and it's just something to be mindful. I know Lori's shaking her head, she's aware of it. It's something to be mindful with all that we're trying to do. So I just wanted to put that out there so there's no surprises down the road. But it's something that's just another piece to the puzzle and another cog in the works, if you will, when you're trying to figure out who belongs in what district and why, when, and how we get them there and who pays for it. Okay?
Great. Tim, anyone else?
That I just want to
Okay,
announce that there's a
one
blood
more.
drive.
Go ahead.
Oh.
One more thing, and then I'm
Yep.
gonna end this topic.
Yep.
If you don't mind. All right, so just to end on the school board, please be mindful, there are many issues here, and pointing fingers at each other, and claiming that this individual said this and whatever, and going on Facebook and being keyboard warriors and misunderstanding, because that can happen when you go on social media. All right, so all these finger pointing's gotta stop, in order for us to be more cohesive and understand what's going on, and the drama's gotta stop. Personal attacks we're not gonna accept in this task force. And we need to address the actual issues, the underlying issues, because otherwise we're not gonna get anywhere. Bottom line is, we need to protect our children who are here, who reside here, and the taxpayers who are here. And I look forward to working with the members of the community on this task force, and, Jody?
Yeah, so there's a blood drive today at the Riverhead Fire Department until 7 o'clock tonight, so anybody got some blood they wanna give away, please get down there, it's desperately needed.
Thank you. All right. Can I have a first and second to close the town board meeting today?
Motion?
Aye, oh, yay.
All approved? All opposed? So moved. Long meeting. Thank you.